Hello. I would like to thank you for your interest on this topic. For the next 20 minutes or so, we'll spend some time reviewing our challenges with the workforce development issue here at PEI. The industry shortage is a very important issue for PEI, one we are spending a lot of time on. For today's discussion, we'll spend some time reviewing what workforce development is and where we are at with this issue. We'll then discuss the various parties that are directing our future workforce. We'll offer some insight and steps that your company can take to assist you in developing a pipeline of technicians. Finally, we'll let you know how PEI is assisting you in educating your workforce and what you can expect from us in the next 5 years. First, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Jason Blake. I'm currently the Executive Vice President for PEI. PEI is the leading association for energy handling equipment industry. I have worked in the association for 12 plus years and focused a lot of my time and energy in the workforce arena. Early on, I realized that I had a unique opportunity to learn and discover solutions for the workforce shortage. The workforce shortage is not something that just crept up on us. It was a direction many educators took to focus on higher education instead of career and technical fields. When I started to evaluate that issue, most secondary schools were predominantly focusing on ACT and SAT scores, as that was their incentive for funding in many states. In 2012, I began to reach out to secondary schools in my community and discovered that CTE educators were very committed to their craft, but they felt like certainly had lost most of their funding, and they were the last resort for most students. The biggest challenge was to build an interest in the industry. So in 2011, we launched our first program for manufacturing, which was a summer program that toured over 10 manufacturing operations in our community. The goal was to build an interest for the students and, more importantly, to build awareness to the parents. The program was fully funded by association members and recruited over 40 students from over 10 high schools. It was the first step to build awareness through a grassroots effort. I have also had the pleasure of touring over 100 facilities, including manufacturing, distributors, and service. Through those tours, I have learned many of their challenges when it comes to recruiting new talent in our industry. We'll spend some time discussing some of these challenges and what successful companies have done to become more successful. One of my other true experience in workforce development was a few years ago working with the Department of Labor to establish the only association who holds the title of Standards Recognized Entity, SRE. An SRE allows a trade association to act and recognize work-based learning programs, known formally as Apprentice Programs, for their members. These programs are very important as they not only offer training, but run parallel with hands-on component that usually has a mentor who coaches and guides the new candidate through a variety of modules that last 3 to 5 years, and usually end with some type of credential that's earned for an individual. This was a great step for CTE occupations, as it added a layer of formal training that could be monitored as standards changed and the industry changed. Finally, I've had the privilege of sitting on my local school board, which gives me an advantage to see it from the eyes of the educator. We'll talk a little more on the important role that they play and how an effective school can assist you in building your pipeline for technicians. For us to truly understand what the issue is, we first must define it, or at least define the buzzwords within the industry. The word is workforce development. I think part of the problem is that the workforce development is too broad and confusing. You can see this example quite simply if you were to query the definition in Wikipedia. I use this example to illustrate the confusion and broad stroke that many folks are taking to address it. This wordy definition is cumbersome and confusing. So let's take a different approach and clean it up so we can understand what it is and what it means to our industry. In simple terms, I believe that workforce development is a general term for the current shortage of our skilled workers. The development component offers a solution to developing the next generation of skilled workers. What's really important is that this is driving revenue shortfalls, service issues, and a slowdown on our thriving industry. It's important to first look at some startling facts. Every day in the US, 10,000 people turn 65. And the number of older adults will more than double over the next several decades to top 88 million people. The U.S. manufacturing industry is looking to fill nearly 500,000 job openings, according to a report released in May by Deloitte and the Manufacturing Institute. And that number is poised to grow by about 2.1 million manufacturing jobs by 2030. A recent survey by Rigid, a leading supplier of professional grade tools, reveals that a scant 6% of high school students hope to have a future career in skilled trades, defined as plumbers, carpenters, electricians, heating, ventilation, or air conditioning installers. Most like-kind industries report they have a job opening rate more than 3 times the national average. And finally, as most economists say, you really don't know you are in a recession until you're about out of it. For the workforce issue, I believe that we just started a 10-year drought to find highly talented, skilled technicians. In addition, it's not just an industry issue, it's in every industry, from the food and beverage to manufacturing. But are we there yet? To truly illustrate the seriousness of the workforce shortage, I share this picture, which most of you have probably experienced. My first observation of the restaurant during peak times was that we were lucky that most folks for the night had decided to dine somewhere else. However, what was occurring was they were at full capacity tonight, and they only had 2 employees, and there would be empty tables even though there was a demand to fill them. You can take this example and mirror it with many industries. When you begin to look at our industry, you can see from our last survey we are experiencing an aging workforce. On this slide, the arrow illustrates that 62% of our respondents are in the 50 and 60-year-old bracket. When you add the 70-year-old bracket, it puts us at 67%. From this survey, you can see that our industry is at a critical stage of turnover to the next generation of leaders. When we take a look at the next slide, it illustrates that although we are a strong tenure in our industry, we truly have a more seasoned workforce, as 66% of those surveyed have more than 25 years of experience in our industry. In conclusion, we are going to need to take some steps to replace these folks as they start to move out of the industry, not to mention the brain drain that will occur when this happens. It is important to realize that our field and career decisions are changing. Higher education is now a larger financial impact than it was 20 years ago. When comparing the compensation of a technician that receives training in addition to no debt, the gap from career start in a technical field versus a higher education can be about $330,000. Many times the college student is making less than the technician once leaving school and is burdened with large debt. In addition, many technician jobs have changed and require much more computer and diagnostics than prior generation. These jobs have reached increased sophistication and training. The PEI membership will need to begin to show that our industry is a career and has a path of training as well as growth. The next generation entering the workforce, known as Generation Z, is less risk averse. They also are interactive and tech savvy, so we'll need to provide them the tools to learn in that fashion. Let's dive deeper into our challenges and discuss some solutions that PEI will be working on to address in the next 5 years. We're going to focus on these 4 areas. 1, the limit of industry partners with school districts. 2, the overall lack of pipeline for new technicians for our industry. 3, the overall bureaucracy of solving the workforce issue. And finally, 4, the perception issues that many CTE occupations have. Our first one is lack of industry partners. What we're describing here is more of a grassroots approach where membership will need to start getting out to our local districts and engaging them. Most school districts have or are starting workforce development committees. The school districts are searching for industry partners to assist them in curriculum, building job placements, or holding job fairs. Most businesses who get involved with their school system have found they get a leg up when recruiting students. In my local district, we discovered that 91% of our graduating students attended college. However, 33% of these students left within their first year. We began to feel it was just as important that we start focusing on how many students were placed in advanced training, not just college. As more industries got engaged in my community, the more they thought outside the box, to the point where they were donating equipment to labs where students were able to get hands-on training. For one business, it just made sense. These students were learning on the equipment, and once they got out of their high school, they were trained and ready for the job. At PEI, we will be focusing on starting to build awareness in communities about our industry. We'll invite local school administrators to regional meetings to meet and collaborate with our members. It will be our first of our grassroots events to promote our industry. So, if you're successful with step 1 and you begin to build a channel of entry-level technicians into your business, you will need to have the next phase of training available. That's where PEI will assist. We'll be launching our Service Tech 1 and Service Tech 2 online training early fall 2022. As we add more online courses, we'll be able to stack them on top of one another. This is known as Stackable Credentialing. Within 3 to 4 years, this credentialing will lead to a master's certification program that will be based on courses as well as hands-on learning. PEI will plan to track these certified technicians throughout their career. This is an important step to our industry. Credentialing adds the value to our members. In addition, it establishes a pathway to an excellent career in our industry. So why is it so difficult to find and train technicians? I believe for the longest time, industry, government, and education were on different pages. Industry has always been frustrated by how slow both government and education make decisions. Many times it seems that government agencies on both the state and federal level are too far removed from the issues at hand. Up until the past 5 years, education has followed the funding, specifically higher education. At PEI, we'll begin to work diligently at bringing these parties together to see eye to eye. It's our role as the industry experts to promote, educate, and drive change to assist our members. We'll continue to develop tools, collateral, and awareness to build upon our educational resources so that our members are successful. So now I want to direct our focus to the final challenge, perception. I always tell the story of one time I was in Washington, D.C., discussing the finer points of workforce development. After my discussion, I received some feedback from a congresswoman who I admired. She came over to congratulate me on the basis of my findings and summary, but she pointed out one point that I'll never forget. She told me, "Jason, you keep using the word train. We need to eliminate that from your vocabulary. You train animals, you educate human beings." That discussion always has stuck with me, and I believe it has some merit when it comes to the perception we have on training. Today's technicians are highly educated employees who are constantly trained on the newest equipment. We'll need to focus on the concepts that we build our training components for our industry. We also need to focus on the value of what a technician brings to our members. A highly trained technician can bring upwards of $260,000 in revenue when you include parts and service. To our members, a highly qualified technician is a very valuable asset to our industry. I would like to thank you for taking time to listen to our first steps and solutions to the workforce issue. None of these solutions will solve the workforce challenges, but if we begin to implement them now, it will give us the tools we need to make us stand out. We'll continue to update you on our progress to successfully address the workforce shortage. I'm Jason Blake. Thank you for being a member of PEI. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Have a good day.